Hello and welcome to the Life in Journal podcast. My name is Nick,
I'm Ian.
and for the first time ever, you'll actually be able to see us in a video on YouTube. If you're actually
Hmm.
watching us, you'll see our
Yep.
ugly mugs.
Yeah, we're gonna try and do a video version of this as well as audio.
Yeah, it's
Something new.
yeah. I'm giving Ian some homework to do.
Yeah, a little bit. I get to auto edit the video while Nick edits the audio.
Yeah, so um, shit. Well, the bad thing is you're gonna get to watch all of our mistakes in the YouTube video,
Right, because it's a lot
and you
harder to cut out like coughing and
yeah, and you're
all
gonna
of our
watch my
ums.
and you get to watch my product placement.
Yeah. Well, I'm drinking tea, so no problem. Oh, I guess
Yeah,
Contigo, which
there you
is
go.
weirdly backwards, but
Some product placement.
yeah.
Um, so we're going to talk we've done top 10 lists before, and I don't know what are some of the top 10 lists we've done. I know we've done like top 10 albums of the 70s. I know we've done
80s, 90s. I think we did several
movies of the
decades.
90s, yeah, a couple other ones, but I so we're going to do the top 10 mob movies, because I was
Yeah.
a big mob movie fan when I was growing up.
Well,
And
I think if you're a film lover, you like film, did a lot of mob movies, especially the ones made by Scorsese and all that. I mean, they're kind of top-notch films in and of
yeah.
themselves. So,
But before we get into that, I do want to talk about some COVID nonsense that's been going on. The
plenty of that.
have you watched, have you been watching any of the press conferences every week,
Not the
or
press
during the week?
conferences. I've seen some of the man on the street interviews that they've done with some of the protesters down in Lansing.
Well, before we get to, I want to talk about something else before we get into the protesters, because
Okay.
I saw, I think it was Thursday last week, during the daily press conference, there was a Fox News reporter that asked the president about report that he said is from, I'm going to use air quotes for the people watching us on YouTube, multiple sources, which was multiple Fox News sources that reports that the that the U.S. is investigating the fact that this could have leaked from a lab in China.
Yeah, I heard that too, but or at least read a headline for it, but I wasn't going to give it any credence of any kind.
Well, I've seen it. I have seen it reported in other places too, more
Mhm.
like more reputable places than Fox News. But the funny thing is, like in every other news story about it, it talks about how at this point there's no evidence that that's actually the case. That it's generally in this kind of situation, the U.S. intelligence agencies kind of go through and do these kind of investigations, and they investigate everything
Okay.
regardless of the validity of it, and this is just one of the things that they're investigating. But at this point there's no actual facts that support the conspiracy story, because that's all it
Right.
is at this point. But it seems to be, it's definitely being pushed by Republicans and the White House, the fact that it's very likely that this is actually leaked. The story is that they were working on a virus. They weren't intentionally trying to create something, but they were working on mutations, which is a normal thing. That's what every country, every big major country in the world does.
Mhm.
We actually do that here in labs ourselves. But
That's called
the
epidemiology, right? Where you study
the
that kind of stuff.
yeah, but they're saying that a bat infected one of the workers because of uh, improper protection, and then she infected her boyfriend. The boyfriend went to the market and infected everyone else. But like I
Mhm.
said, at this point it's only Fox News and Fox News sources that are reporting this as
Okay.
being a viable explanation.
Right.
And I mean, is it possible? Yeah, because I don't trust shit that comes out of China. But when you
Can we
have
really trust the stuff shit that comes out of our government either?
I trust the stuff that our government says more than what the Chinese government says.
Okay.
When China says they've got like 4,000 deaths, and the death toll is probably more in the millions in China.
Right.
I mean, it's
Well, I was funny you say that because I was thinking about that, and because Trump was using the per capita numbers based
Yeah.
instead of just the overall numbers. And I was thinking, oh well, he's kind of right there as far as that goes. When you're comparing the United States to say like Spain,
Hmm.
of course the numbers are going to be higher, but the
Yeah.
percentages are going to be different. And then they were at the same time they had the numbers scrolling on the top of the screen, and I noticed the China numbers, and I'm thinking that seems very low per capita to, I mean, because there's a
Well,
billion
per
people in
per
China,
capita, yeah, because that's the largest country by far in the world. China and
population
India.
wise,
Yeah,
right?
population wise.
So that's
But
what I was
the
thinking. I'm thinking the numbers should be higher. Just sorry if I hit my mic there. Just naturally, um,
well,
because
yeah.
of the higher number of population.
So real time numbers. Well, hold on a second. Let me see. This was as of 7:15 tonight. The cases and the confirmed cases in China were 82,000 with 4,600 deaths, whereas the United States has 340,000 with 30 almost 39,000 deaths,
Right.
and we're a fraction of the size population wise of China.
Yeah. Well, there's about what 350 million Americans.
370 million, I want to say something like
Yeah,
that,
I know it
roughly.
was in that rough area.
I was reading something last week also that you have to have a cell phone to get around anywhere in China, because the way they've got the country locked down, you have to show like a green health card on your phone to move around.
Okay.
And there's only three cell phone carriers in the country, and between those three cell phone companies, they've stated that they've lost 21 million um, cell phone plans. They've had 21 million cell phone plans canceled the past 3 months. Now, granted, that I'm sure those aren't all deaths, but you have to imagine, at least according to some of the videos I've seen coming out of China, coming out of
Uh,
hospitals in China, a lot of those, I'm sure. That's why I said the death toll in China has got to be in the millions.
right. Well, like I said, just rationally looking at the numbers and percentages. I mean, obviously, some countries are having slightly higher numbers per capita than others.
Yeah,
But if you average everything out, and then take China and give and apply that same average to China,
it's astronomical.
it's got to be like you said, it's got to be over a million at
Yeah,
least.
at least. Well, you figure so at the pace we're at right now. So there's been what almost 40,000 deaths in the country in the past 6 weeks. We're on pace for 200, if this pace actually kept up, which we know it won't.
It
But
won't. No, it's already slightly starting to plateau a bit
at this pace, we're on pace for 260 to 270,000 deaths this year in the United
this year.
States.
Yeah, which is an unbelievable amount of
Yeah,
death.
and see that's the thing. A lot of people over the last 3 months have compared this to the flu a lot, but we're already over the average death toll for the flu per year,
Right.
which is between 30 35,000. We're already over that number. So, and that's in 6 weeks, not in, you got 30 to 35,000 people that die in the US of the flu, but that's over a 12-month period,
Right.
not, not 6 weeks.
Right. Well, then that's the thing, and that's what I've been trying to like. When I've talked to people, I've tried to point out that it's not. It's the fact that this is just different. It's
Yeah.
yes, it's similar to a flu. It's just because we've never experienced this particular virus, no one has an immunity to it.
No, and
So
no, and
it's
it's
like the
way more
flu that no one's
contagious.
ever had. Right. And
It's the flu on steroids.
right. So it's just those numbers seem high, but I mean, it does make sense that this is the kind of death toll we should,
Yeah.
and be anticipating at the high end.
I think it's so I was reading before we started recording, I was reading an article and it was talking about Christian Anderson, who's a biologist at Scripps Research Institute in
Hmm.
California, compared, so they took COVID-19 and compared it to there's 6 other coronaviruses known to infect humans, and said that the evidence shows that that the COVID-19 was not purposefully manipulated in a lab,
Right.
just by looking at the data available to them.
Well, that's what I was because I was actually talking to my mom about it because she brought up the possible conspiracy
Yeah,
of it starting in a lab,
yeah,
and if you take the idea of biological warfare out of the equation, it's not out of the realm of just natural expectancy for a virus to evolve.
No.
This is a COVID virus. We have COVID viruses. This is just a mutation thereof
Yeah.
that
I mean,
none of us have experienced.
Yeah, SARS is a COVID virus.
Right, exactly. So it's just an evolution or a mutation of a previous virus,
Yeah.
which doesn't need a lab to happen. That just happens
No, it
naturally. We see
happens
that
naturally.
occur, you know.
COVID's actually mutated at least what 6 times since the original finding of the virus in what, December.
December, yeah. Well,
I think
and
there's
the flu changes every year too.
every year.
You know, yeah. So that's why the whole conspiracy theory thing just doesn't hold weight, at least in terms of it being an accident. Sure, that's a possibility,
Yeah.
but I've one of the headlines I read was this was an attack.
No, yeah.
That's
I
kind of
saw
what I
that
thought you
also.
were like.
No.
Why would they attack us? And I mean, like you said, the numbers are skewed for China. They're killing their own people, which
Yeah.
I'm sure they could. They're not. It's not uncommon for governments to do that, but not to that level. And if it was an attack, they wouldn't have attacked in a way that weakened themselves as well.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just, I don't want to single out just China. I think that there are probably quite a few countries throughout the world that are underreporting death totals. Because if you look at it,
Yes.
why is the death rate so much higher in the United States than every other country in the world?
Right.
Even countries with similar um, similar population numbers.
Oh,
So that's why I said I'm sure there's a lot of countries just out of the sake of not putting panic into their population are underreporting numbers.
yeah. I'm kind of curious what South Korea is doing because their numbers are extremely low.
Yeah.
So, and I know, I mean,
You,
obviously it's a small country, but
you know what's even lower than that? North
North
Korea. Because
Korea, yeah,
North
they
Korea
said
says they got
0.
zero.
Yeah,
Even though Russia's been
0.
sending in supplies, but 0 cases.
Right, 0 cases, and if you take into account some of the factors that we're looking at here um, that are increasing the death rate and the death toll,
Yeah.
like poverty, um, and environment. North Korea is essentially one giant Detroit city,
Yeah,
and
pretty
as
much.
we know, living near Detroit, Detroit's getting hit really bad because of the high poverty and the high
Well, I
or
think
the low rate of quality of living.
I think one big factor that hurts Detroit is the fact that even though it's a bigger city and it's had its issues the past couple of decades, it's still a major international hub. There's a
Right.
lot of international travel that goes through Detroit, especially with they got two major airports. Um, because of the automotive industry, I think that's played a big factor. Same thing with New York. Obviously, the New York is the international hub for a lot of different industries, not just the automotive industry like Detroit is. But I think that kind of played in a lot of Detroit's issues also.
Well, and New York's
Not
problem is
just the poverty rate.
ultimately it's an island,
Yeah,
Manhattan, and that's where a lot of the cases are. It's still it's a city. It suffers from the city issues, but it also suffers from being isolated
yeah.
as an island.
And people are really
Um,
packed together. They live
right.
closely together in New York,
Right. Yeah.
as they
So
do in Detroit.
right. Right. But I'd say the poverty level is definitely higher in Detroit. I'd be curious to
Oh
see
yeah,
what the actual numbers for Detroit are and compare them per capita, to see if there's a divergence in the intensity that they're
yeah,
seeing in Detroit, relative to New York.
yeah. I know
But
that earlier today I saw they released a breakdown by zip code for Detroit
okay,
of the
right? Yeah, I think
cases.
I saw that. I wasn't listening, but I saw them doing that on the news.
Yeah. But closer to home, I know you mentioned the the protest that happened over this past week.
Yeah,
There
in
was
Lansing.
I, it wasn't it didn't seem much like it was a anti governor, like a protest against the things that she's put in place. It seemed more like a Trump rally than anything else, at least from a lot of the videos I saw and the people
Well,
I know that work and live in Lansing that had issues getting around.
There was a picture that a friend of mine posted. Um, I don't know if he was on the news or if he was in a newspaper, but he's from Belleville, and he was there, and he had a Barbie doll hung from a noose, which was, I'm assuming, to represent the governor
Yeah, the governor.
being hung in effigy.
Yeah.
And so I think, and there were a lot of people chanting "Lock her up." I don't know
Oh,
if they're
yeah, I know.
referring to our governor or if they're referring to Hillary, because they're still campaigning against Hillary for some fucking reason,
I think it's
and
kind of
Obama.
interesting, though. Yeah, I think it's interesting that there's other states around us have started. They've actually, like Wisconsin has 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 made the stay-at-home order through the end of next month. So it's actually
Okay,
through the end of
well, there
May.
were protests in Wisconsin today too.
Oh, we're there. The
Yeah,
funny so, but here,
Wisconsin and another.
so here's
Is
the
it
interesting thing
Pennsylvania?
though. How many protests have you seen in Ohio?
None that I can think of. At least I
None.
haven't heard of any.
None. Even though Mike DeWine has put in place many of the same things that Gretchen Whitmer has here in Michigan, but because he's a Republican governor, he's not
Right.
getting the pushback like the Democratic governors are.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I did see a funny meme, and it was three pictures. Top picture was a black man being shoved on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and it was white people, and it was quoting white people. You should follow the rules. And then it was another picture of kids in cages, and it says white people, you should follow the rules. And then the last picture is all these protesters in Lansing, and it says white people, we don't need to follow any rules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
exactly. I was the news was down there, and they I don't remember what news channel it was, but they were interviewing this lady. She was at least in her car, like they should have, like they were supposed to stay. And
right.
she sticks her head out the window and she's like, "Oh, this is nonsense. That I need to be able to buy what I want to buy, and they need to stop restricting our freedoms." And she's like, "And I need to get my hair done."
I actually saw that exact same video.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right. Yeah, because she showed her roots.
Her
The
roots. I'm like, the health of our society is more important than your fucking hair.
right, right. And I mean, and you look at her, it's obvious that it's not like it doesn't really matter. Your
Yeah.
roots aren't the worst of your problems.
No.
So,
I and I saw a post on Facebook today. It was like it was talking about how we need to. I understand that this is a health crisis and blah blah blah, but we need to reopen up our economy because all these small businesses are suffering and are gonna have to close because of the sanctions put in place or the restrictions put in place. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. It sucks that a lot of these small businesses are gonna close because of it. But unfortunately, the well-being and safety of our society is a much more important issue.
well, I mean,
And
we still have to think about these things. We still have to think about the long term effect this is going to have on the economy and on
oh,
people and
absolutely,
jobs. But
absolutely. But having a society in place is much more important than having an economy in place. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, I mean, it greater minds than us are the ones that are going to have to
Yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah, but the other thing is, I hate that. First off, they classify small businesses absurdly in the United States because
Right.
a small business is considered any business that has less than 500 employees
Right.
and doesn't have a home base somewhere else. So it's not
Yeah.
owned by another company. So that's why they say a majority of the jobs in the United States are actually from small businesses. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? A small business shouldn't be a company that has 480 employees and makes, $3 billion a year. That's not a small business.
No. No. Small businesses, in my opinion, are businesses with probably say
A
less
hundred, a
than.
hundred, less than 100
And
employees.
I would even say, I mean, I know a lot of businesses that are 5 people,
Yeah,
6 people, 10 at the high end, not including obviously owners that are, a lot of them are just never going to come back.
yeah, oh yeah,
They're just
absolutely.
not.
But that's the thing that kind of irritates me is you've got Congress set aside a huge chunk of money to help small businesses, but because you've got small businesses that are classified so broadly in the United States, you've got huge chunk, millions of dollars that are going to large businesses
Right.
and
Companies
aren't
that don't
going
really need it.
the companies that don't need it. but are strangling out the small businesses, the actual real small businesses, the ones you talked about that have 5, 10, 15, 20 employees.
Right.
Those are the smaller companies that aren't getting the relief from the government.
Right. And there's enough of those in the country where that makes up a chunk. I
It
don't know how
does.
big, but a big chunk of what this unemployment number is.
Yep.
So I actually saw, I saved it because I didn't get a chance to read it yet. An article that 17 members of Congress have already, Democratic members, have already put their names on a bill for the next relief program.
Yeah.
And what they're shooting for, and I don't think it's going to happen, but what they're shooting for is $2,000 a month stimulus checks to the public, just like the last $1,200 one was, but $2,000 a month for 6 months. And I just don't know if that's going to happen, but that's a bill that
it
is
won't. It
officially
won't.
put out
But yeah,
forward. So
I was talking to somebody last night. I was at work, and I was talking to somebody who grew up, was born and raised in Canada, grew up in Windsor, and didn't move to the United States until she was in her 20s. She met her husband when she was working in Detroit and moved here and started raising her family. But she said that if you're a Canadian citizen and you live in Canada, full-time live in Canada, that they don't call it a basic income, but that's basically what it is. You get X amount per your income, you get X amount of dollars per month. It's based off of your income and how many kids you have, and you get that every single month of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what Andrew Yang was talking about?
Yeah, he wanted to do was $1,000 per person a month.
Yeah.
It's
Per adult.
per adult, yes. Yeah. And now looking at his plan, it kind of makes sense.
Right. Well, and in the grand scheme, it'd be cheaper than trying to rush through all this planning and spending on, even just $2,000 a month per person for 6 months rather than $1,000 a month forever.
Yeah. Just remember though, you're gonna have to claim that on your taxes at the end of the year.
What I did read of that article said this $2,000 would be tax free.
Oh, really?
Yep. You would not have to claim it on your taxes. That was in like the first paragraph, and that's like, well, I can't finish reading this, so I went on. Sorry.
Well, that'd be interesting.
I'll send it to you when I get
it. Would be nice. It would be nice if they said, "Look, we're going to do 2,000 for 6 months," and the compromise would be 1,500 for 4 months. I mean, at least that would be something. But I don't even think that compromise would happen.
No, we're dealing with Republicans. A lot of them are already screaming welfare state.
Yeah,
I saw several.
Unfortunately,
on what's his name from Florida governor. Let Democrats help people now. They're going to want to help people forever.
Yeah.
Okay, it's our fucking money anyway.
I know.
Crazy.
But I was talking to a lady last night at work who was upset that because she had to go to the store get some groceries, and when she was like, she was also in the process of cleaning out her basement, I think is what she said, or a garage, one of the two. And she was like, while I'm here, I'll just go next door and go to Target. So she was walking around Target and she found some shelving units, and she was like, got all the way up to the front to check out, and someone came up to her and was like, I'm sorry, ma'am, but because of the governor's orders, we're not allowed to sell that to you. And so she was all upset, all pissed off. I mean, she was going on and on about it when she was talking to me about it. And I was like,
they weren't allowed to sell shelving units?
No, they're not allowed to sell anything that's not non-essential. But here,
I bought this poster
hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
So, yes, it's and that's kind of where some people are kind of upset, is don't really understand where the line is between essential and non-essential. But whatever. Right. But what I told her, and she didn't know this, and the store probably should have told her this at the time when she was throwing a fit about it, was you can buy whatever you want. You can buy TVs, you can buy computers, you can buy couches and tables and shelving units and all that stuff. You just have to buy it online or through their app, and then you can pick it up in the store. It's no problem. What they want to do is they want to limit the amount of people that are like, it's a Saturday afternoon. I'm kind of bored. I haven't been able to leave the house in 3 weeks. You know what? Let's just go to Walmart and walk around and look at things.
Right.
That's what they're trying to limit. That's what they're trying to cut out. The people that are just there to browse around. If you know what you want, I bought a new grill a couple of last week. It's not essential. I went to Lowe's to look around because I didn't know what because it was like the day or two after the order went place. So I didn't know what I'd be able to buy. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to Lowe's. So I was like walking around and they got a big sign up and they said, due to restrictions, we're unable to sell these items, but you're able to purchase them online. So I was like, sweet. Pulled the app out, bought it on my phone, and walked up front. I was like, hey, I need to pick up my grill. And they were like, okay, just pull up front. Good. So I think I understand that people are frustrated. First off, because they can't plant their damn flowers when there's 3 inches of snow on the ground.
Right.
But I think people that, and maybe they have been talking about it on the news. I try not to watch too much of the news. I don't know. I know they've been talking about the order. I don't know if they've been talking about the fact that you're able to actually buy this stuff online and pick it up. Maybe that would kind of squash some of the people that are pissed off about it. But as far as going back to the protest, I mean, it was absolutely asinine. First off, that they're blocking the entrance to the hospital. I know the hospital up there, the PR department came out and said, oh, well, no ambulances were blocked. People were able to come into the hospital. But,
there was that viral video of that worker who was blocked.
Yes. And there were several dozen employees at the time posting about it on social media about how the damn ambulances couldn't get through. There was pictures of ambulances stuck in gridlock traffic on the roads trying to get to the hospital.
So it's obvious that the congestion did cause problems.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't see how you could be someone that calls yourself pro-life and to be in a situation like that where you're blocking traffic to a fucking hospital with a pandemic going on.
Right. Well, there's a lot of ironies involved with the pro-lifers anyway. So
yeah, well, yeah. That's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother story. way beyond our pay grade, I think.
Yeah.
We can bring it up, we can talk about it, but it's way beyond our pay grade to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to kind of quickly talk about that. I know we've got a topic to get into, but
yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about on the whole COVID thing or the protest? Anything else?
No, not really. Yeah, nothing I can think of.
Okay.
You did freeze a little bit, by the way, when you were talking.
Not on my end, sunshine.
You did on my end. I didn't freeze, but you did.
Well, your internet sucks then.
I froze on you the other day, so does that mean your internet sucks?
All internet sucks right now.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Surprisingly enough, my internet's actually been fine lately, but it was kind of shitty there for a while.
Yeah, I don't feel mine's been that throttled either, to be honest with you. But I other than doing this, I haven't really been, I've just been streaming shit. So
yeah,
it's not like we're not really quarantined. I mean, we're quarantining ourselves on our days off, but we're not really.
Yeah,
it's pretty much business as usual for us as far
pretty much is
day-to-day goes.
Yeah, because when you're working in the emergency department, they don't. There's no working from home.
No. I wish there were. So
I'm sure there's probably ways they could have us work from home, I guess, but
I don't know though. Could they? I mean, it'd be giving up an awful lot of potentially. I mean, we deal with a lot of records.
Yeah, and patients and everything else. So I mean, it's like they really couldn't. But
yeah,
I'm just saying though.
We kind of have to be records from home.
It'd be terrible.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the topic. Back to mob movies. There was one in particular. So did you get a chance to watch The Irishman?
I did not know.
Of course.
No. To be honest, I started it, but I fell asleep within like I don't even remember what I saw. I was asleep within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
no reflection on the film. Just I was tired.
Gotcha. Because that was kind of the reason it kind of stirred this idea up for me was the attention that the movie got. Do you remember even when it was released? It was
late last
year. Yeah. And I don't know if it actually won awards, but I know it was nominated for several, and there was a lot of talk. So it kind of got me into. I ended up watching it, and I was like, I'll try not to spoil too much about the movie. First off, it's way too fucking long. It's like a 3.5 hour movie, and there's too many. I don't want to call them pointless moments, but I guess there's really no other way to really describe it. There's quite a few scenes in the movie that after you're watching the movie, you're like, they could have cut probably 40 minutes out of the movie. And you still there, Ian? You froze up on me, sunshine. See, I cursed myself. Dun, 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 dun. All right,
And we're back.
I think we're back.
We
Ian kind of
experienced some technical difficulties there.
see, I kind of cursed it, didn't I? I was
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
the internet connection, and then Ian disappears. But anyway, so
Well, you disappeared on my end, so we both disappeared. Woo.
I wasn't the one that had to reconnect. I'm just saying.
Well, perhaps.
Boy, well, like I was saying, it was a good movie, The Irishman, and
Yeah.
but some of the parts were just kind of, I thought, really could have been cut out of the movie. And the big thing that I think hurt it was they used CGI to de-age Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro.
Okay. For
And
part of the film or for the whole film?
for parts of it, because there's like a lot of flashback scenes
Okay.
in the movie, and the de-aging CGI was terrible. I mean, there's really no other way to put it, and it really kind of messed, I think, with the timeline of the movie, because there was parts of the movie where like, okay, I understand this is in the past, but how far in the past is this? Is it earlier or later than other scenes in the past in the movie? So it kind of it didn't. I it would have been better had they have just hired younger actors that looked like them,
Right.
and just done it that way, like they do in every other movie like that, every other mob movie that has those kind of scenes.
Right.
And were you going to say something?
No, I was just actually just thinking because it's a bit of a side note, but the movie Doctor Sleep that just came out, it's a direct sequel to The
Mm-hmm.
Shining. The book
Yeah,
was a direct sequel to Stephen King's Shining, but the adaptation is a direct sequel to the Kubrick's film.
yeah,
And they didn't do the CGI de-aging. They used new actors and just
yeah,
and it worked really well.
yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to see it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a good movie. But
yeah,
that's to go to your point. They should have just done that because it can be done right.
yeah. And there were, it's like I said, it's a good movie. It's definitely worth watching if you're a mob fan. It's based on quote unquote true story,
Okay.
but there are some of the key moments in the movie have been disputed by other people. A key one is the fact that the guy in the movie, in the at least, so he didn't actually write the book. He he told his stories, or his life story, to somebody else like a year before he died, and
Okay.
then they wrote the book. But this guy claims that he killed Jimmy Hoffa, and that's in the movie. And
Okay.
there's several other people have disputed that fact. So it's a good movie. I don't know how factual it really is, but a lot of those movies are like that. You could take 42 for instance, and I'm sure there's aspects of that movie that aren't have the
Entirely. Yeah.
truth kind of stretched in it.
Right. Well, that's a little different though. It's one thing um to dramatize it, to adjust things, timelines, and things like that. But it's a completely
Yeah,
different thing to say,
completely make something up.
well, right, or
Yeah,
claim something that isn't true. But I mean, that people do that. So I mean, in the context of the film, if this guy claims, or if did they actually show him killing Jimmy Hoffa in the movie?
they show him killing Jimmy Hoffa in the movie,
Okay. Okay.
and he could have been the killer because he was somebody that was close to Jimmy Hoffa, was around him a lot
Uh huh.
throughout his life. So it's possible, but I don't know. That's one of those things we'll never know. We'll never know who
Well,
the
no,
killer
no,
was.
it's too many years have passed. This was what 75.
Roughly, yes, yeah, mid
Okay.
70s.
Or so, I mean, mid to late 70s, actually, now that I think of it. It was either 75 or 78. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't know. It was definitely in the 70s sometime. It was
Right.
before I was born, so I don't know.
Well, if it was
But
78, it was the same year I was born, but um, I wouldn't have been paying attention to the newspapers at that point.
yeah. But like I said, if you're a mob fan, definitely check the movie out. It's a good movie. It's definitely worth watching. I don't have it in my top 10. I've got it listed as one of my honorable mentions,
Okay.
but I don't know. It's mob movies, like I was saying at the beginning of the episode. It's there's definitely been a romanticizing by Hollywood of the mafia and these characters over the last 30 plus years.
I
Um,
agree. Well, the it's all part of a kind of a romanticizing of criminal life.
yeah.
Because
Well, yeah, but
it's the glamour of it, the
yeah,
money and
I
the
think outside of like, I don't think you can really say like criminal life, I guess, because the mob definitely through organized labor was a driving force in the creation of the middle class and blue collar workers in America for much of the last century.
yes. I'm not saying it was, sometimes crime does do good, but
Yeah.
it does, you can't deny the fact that there's a lot of um innocent people hurt by it and a lot of
Oh,
people
absolutely.
murdered by it, whether they deserve it or
Absolutely.
not. Um,
Absolutely.
just a, uh 75. It was he disappeared in July of 75.
Okay.
I kind of side checked while you were talking.
Yeah.
So
But and that's the thing, in retrospect, looking back today, I think there's a lot of people today that really don't realize, especially younger people, don't realize or understand how much of America was controlled by the mob for much of the
right,
20th century. I mean, my grandparents owned a convenience store out towards Detroit, and every single trucking company that came through there for 20 plus years was all mob controlled, all of it.
right.
My grandfather used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But
Different time though. I mean, that
oh
doesn't
yeah,
it doesn't really happen anymore. I mean,
no,
although I mean,
definitely not that we
you could
know.
argue that the
The
old
big
mafiosos are just CEOs of big companies now.
well,
Some of the same practices.
the big crime families still exist. They still
Right.
exist to
I
the
just don't I don't think they have the same power they used to have.
probably not.
I could be wrong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
I
I
mean,
just
maybe they're
don't think
working
they
in the
do.
shadows, and I just don't think
Well,
they
I
do
just
either.
think that it's shifted because, like I said, I think the big mob bosses, what would have been the big mob bosses of the past, are just big CEOs of companies now.
Yeah.
They got business degrees instead of
they,
whatever.
they went to school and got all learned up.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
because the elements of the mafia. I mean, we always kind of apply the Italian American or the Italian side of it, but there's mafias all over. There's Jewish mafia, Irish mafia, and all that. And if you think about it, what's more mafioso than just rich families? The
Yeah.
Bushes and the Rockefellers and the whatever.
Trumps.
The Trumps. Exactly. Trump's as close to an old school mob as mafia. Well, at least he
Well,
wants to be. I think
yeah. Well, hey, you know
he
what?
acts like one.
He dealt in real estate in the 80s in New York, so
Right.
there's absolutely no way he doesn't have ties to the mob.
Right.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
to
and he's
to
diversified now. It's the Russian mafia as well.
but what I'm saying though is like you can't be in that industry in New York in
Right.
the 70s through the 80s and not be tied to the mob somehow.
Oh, I know. I agree. But I'm
You know,
just saying. I think it's
and I'm
different now, though.
no, yeah, yeah, and I'm not trying to say he was a willing participant to be tied to the mob. It was just the fact that to have those dealings, you were dealing with those individuals.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he was more than willing to do it too.
But I don't know. I don't know, and I don't want to. I'm not going to try to stretch it too far. I just know that you know.
Well, you
Though,
can surmise based on his behavior and his attitude towards the law that
yeah.
it's not outside the realm of possibility that he was
No.
willing to do that.
No.
So
Let's get to some movies, man. Now that we're
sure.
like, I don't know,
Well,
almost an hour into the show.
we talked about the one movie. Um, Let me bring my list
Yeah.
back up because I closed it.
Oh, and speaking of other mobs, obviously the guy in The Irishman wasn't Italian; he was Irish.
Right. Mob, obviously.
Obviously.
Right. Well, even Britain had their mafia. You know
Yeah.
oh, it was the brothers.
Oh, I don't
I
know.
can't remember their names. Um, but yeah, they were big mob people. I mean, they ran a lot of things around London and stuff
Yeah.
in the '60s, '50s, and '60s.
So what are some good mob movies you got?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious ones, Goodfellas.
Which
I
I
mean,
had a number
that's
one on mine. I don't
okay.
know.
Well, I didn't number mine, but it's the first one. When you said mob movies, the first one that came to my mind was Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
Yeah, because it's one of the. I mean, you could argue it is the best one.
Yeah.
Obviously, The Godfather.
Now, speaking of The Godfather, which one of the Godfather movies? Because for a long time, I was a huge fan of Godfather Part One, but I would say
Okay,
over the course of the past probably 15 years, my opinion has changed. And
and
actually,
Part Two has become your
I
favorite.
like two better than because I think two has a better backstory because it
Well,
kind of
it is
goes
backstory. It's
into
50% backstory.
yeah exactly. And I never liked three, but I think three's about. I don't have three in my top 10.
Okay,
I've
I have
got a
three on
list
the
as
list, but as a as a group,
yeah I've got
it's called
three
the
as
Godfather trilogy. You
yeah
know.
I've got The Godfather Part Three is one of my honorable mentions. I didn't actually. It's a good movie, but it was a movie that wasn't. I think the fact that it was made as a kind of a cash grab cheapens it a little bit, and it didn't have a really strong story either. Two had a great, two with, the killing of Fredo and things like that. There's so many
Yeah,
different
layers.
backstories, layers to it.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's a couple ways you can look at it because take if you take three out of the equation, you could say there's Godfather and Godfather Part Two, and you can analyze them comparatively to each other. In which case, I would probably agree Godfather Two is a much better film
Yeah,
overall. But then you can look at it as they're just two parts of the same movie because there is an extended. It's
yeah,
kind of a bootleg version, but it's an
it's
extended
the same
version
thing.
of the
Yeah,
movies edited together in
yeah,
chronological order, which I'd
yeah.
actually would like to see. And if you do that, which when I watch them, I tend to watch them together. I've never watched
Oh
the
yeah,
chronological version, but I've always
yeah.
watched. I always try to watch them together. In which case, as a whole, I see them as one film. I don't know,
It
kind of like Harry
I
Potter, Deathly Hallows Part One and Part
on
Two.
part two, yeah.
Yeah,
It's I the one thing I can say is Godfather Part One I think has the best kill scene with
with Sonny.
when Sonny gets killed. I think that's
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
the best of the three movies.
Because the first time you see it, I mean, we've seen it hundreds, not a
Yeah.
hundred, but dozens of times, and so we know it's coming. But that first time you see it and you don't know it's coming,
You
it's
don't
like
expect it.
you don't expect it.
I mean, a
No.
close second, I think, is definitely the death of Fredo because it's something that had been building
Yes.
for multiple movies through two movies, and
Well, not only that,
it,
but you almost feel like
it was the
Michael could
culmination.
forgive him.
Yeah, but it was the culmination of Michael just kind of putting an end to all that and taking control of everything.
Right. Right. Yeah, it had to happen. I mean,
Yeah,
regardless, but there's an element of will he or won't he
yeah, and I
do
think it's
it?
kind of the emotional connection because you feel bad for Fredo through a lot of it, and I think it's that kind of emotional connection that
Right.
w- makes that his death a close second to Sonny's. But I think just the kind of raw death, I guess is really the only way to put it. That Sonny has. It's
Right.
because you're not like you said, you're not expecting it.
Right. Well, to think of it like this, it's Sonny's death that puts him in the position that he doesn't want to be in,
Yeah.
which is the head of the family. And it's Fredo's death that solidifies him accepting that.
Yes.
So,
It was the culmination.
right. Sorry, my allergies have been crazy lately.
And we don't
So
want to see you wiping your nose. Come on.
I've been trying to do it off screen, but then I don't know. It's all right. It's not like I'm blowing my nose on screen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if there had to, if Goodfellas isn't number one, Godfather one or two or both could be number one.
I had Godfather 2 as second on my list.
Right. Yeah, to me that's there's probably some who would argue that Goodfellas wouldn't even exist if it weren't for The Godfather.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you can. And it's like and it's tough because it's like it's not really like 1 and 2, it's like 1A and 1B. Is kind of the way I look at it. It's like if
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
if you sit down with somebody and they've never seen any mob movie, I probably wouldn't go to Goodfellas first. I would probably go to The Godfather first.
Yeah, just because it's the definitive beginning of
Yeah, yeah,
what we see is the mob movie genre.
hmm
Ultimately, I mean,
yeah.
going back because I'm going to go back in one of mine, but because this is going to be a very unpopular view, but when it comes to Scarface, I'd much rather watch the 1928 version.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, Scarface, the Al Pacino version, is not a good movie, and
I mean, it's fine.
it's
I can watch it, but
it's
I much rather watch the Paul Mooney Boris Karloff version
yeah,
from the 20s. I really
it's
would.
Al Pacino doing a really terrible
Cuban,
Cuban
yeah,
role. I mean, it's terrible. I understand why people are drawn to the movie because they're drawn to the guns and the drugs and everything else
and the gold
aspect of it.
chains and
Yeah,
everything else.
but
Yeah.
it's like acting wise, it's probably his worst acting job of his career because it's
Oh,
terrible.
I don't know.
And it's
I can think of a couple that are a
and
little
he's done
feminine.
some really bad ones.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's if you're a fan of that movie, I'm not going to be talking about it. So other than that,
Well, only in the sense that if I were making a list, the original Scarface would be on my list,
yeah,
not the new one, not the '83 De Palma version, the original Paul Mooney, Boris Karloff,
yeah,
Scarface, because it's the one I saw first anyway.
yeah.
So,
What
and it's a good
what?
movie, but it's real. It's kind of the original gangster type movies with prohibition and
Yeah,
you know where I think the modern version of the mafia really started. And then I mean that kind of ties into another movie that's on the list because it's I don't know how true it is, but it's I mean I've mentioned a few. I don't know if you want to mention a couple before I get to the next
no,
one I have on my
no, you
list.
can get to the next one. Then I'll do a couple others
Untouchables, Kevin Costner, Sean
because
Connery.
that was another one that I would definitely have on my list.
Right.
It's one of those it's one of those mob staple movies.
Right. Because it is. I mean, ultimately it's the other side of the coin. You're looking at it from the law enforcement side of it, which is kind of
Yeah,
rare
it is.
in mob movies. You're usually seeing it strictly through the eyes of the mob side.
Yeah,
Um, but it's one of my favorite like period type piece movies of that era, that type of thing. And I think it ties into the fact that I like the original Scarface. It's the Prohibition and the Al Capone and all
yeah,
that stuff. But I don't know how accurately it depicts
yeah. I
how
really
things.
don't
But
know.
it's just such a good movie. I don't care. I've always enjoyed that movie a lot.
One that isn't. It's not really like a mob movie, but
Mm.
what about Gangs of New York? Because it's
I never liked it. I didn't
no,
even consider it for the list. To be honest with you,
it's kind of it's
see,
a fantastic movie though,
see, I
and
didn't
it's
I didn't like it. But
no.
I guess I should point out I didn't finish watching it.
Oh yeah,
It was one of
you
those
definitely have
movies
to
where I
watch it.
watched it and I just wasn't sold on it. I wasn't being
Yeah,
grabbed, so I just kind of turned it off. Um, it just felt a little heavy, like too much going on that it just
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's a movie I obviously have to maybe go back and watch
Bill the
again.
Butcher, I think, is one of the best characters in
Is
cinema.
that Daniel Day Lewis's
Yeah,
character?
in
Okay.
the last 50 years. I mean, it's a
Wow.
fantastic role, and he kills it.
Well, and he's a very captivating actor. I mean,
Yeah.
he really dives into his roles. He's one of the last like true method actors out there.
Here's one that's kind of outside of out in left field about Snatch.
I actually put it on my list as a question mark because I wasn't sure how I
Yeah.
know there's mafia elements because another one that is like that would be Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah.
You
Well,
know,
well,
and
yeah. I
to
guess.
maybe a better extent, Pulp Fiction because I mean we are dealing with something of a gangster
Yeah,
and
because in Pulp
what's his
Fiction,
name.
they're mob hitmen.
Right, exactly. But I don't know. To me, Reservoir Dogs I always saw as kind of a mob movie. It's just like the
Yeah,
muscle of the mob. It's not really
yeah,
the you're not seeing the glamour side of it. You're seeing the
yeah.
muscle of it.
And that's kind of like with Gangs of New York. It's not really like a mob movie, but it's like a mob precursor movie.
Okay, yeah. Well,
That's
that's kind of how I was pictured. It's like because isn't he an Irish character?
yeah,
Yeah, kind of the Irish mob
yeah.
version, or what would have been the Irish mob in New York.
What about another pretty obvious one, and one that I think definitely has to be on the list? What about Casino?
Yeah, it was actually the second movie I thought of, and
Yeah.
I guess I don't know where it would fall on like a top 10 list.
Where would you put it on a top 10 list?
Actually, kind of near the bottom.
Really?
Not because of quality though, because the quality of the film is fantastic. But there's so many. To me, it's Scorsese. This is just film critique. To me, it's just Scorsese redoing Reservoir Dogs.
Really?
I
I don't
feel
get that. I don't get that at
it's
all. With
to me, it's like, or not Reservoir Dogs. I'm sorry, Goodfellas. Him redoing Goodfellas.
okay, yeah, because there's
I
a lot of the
misspoke
same
here.
staff, and
Yeah, I mean, it's like he hit a home run with Goodfellas, and
I
it's
felt
to
like
me,
I
Casino
felt
was just
like
like, hey, let's
Casino.
do that again.
I
Let's
felt like Casino was like more of a continuation in some
well,
aspects of
and
it,
maybe it is. I
but
guess
and it
you got to look at
wasn't
it as a sequel or a pseudo sequel.
whereas Goodfellas is more like the lower end
Hmm.
of the mafia. Casino was like the higher end, the guys that were like buying the casinos and stuff like that and running them,
Right.
and have a scene where you put a guy's head in a vice and pop his freaking eye out. I mean, it's like it's movie
There's some
magic, man.
great scenes. I mean, the Robert De Niro getting blown up. I mean, that there's some great stuff going on in Casino,
Oh yeah,
film wise. But it
yeah.
just, I don't know. It felt a lot like he was just repeating himself.
Joe Pesci's death scene when they kill him out in the
Oh yeah.
cornfield. It's a fantastic scene.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it wasn't a critique on the film itself. The film is well done. The film is good.
Yeah.
But I've always in the back of my mind had that problem with it's like I just think between that and Goodfellas, I'm going to take Goodfellas every day because
Yeah.
it's Scorsese doing the same thing, not the same
Mhm.
story, but the same thing, and he did it better with Goodfellas. I
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
so. That's
Yeah.
again just an opinion,
I definitely wouldn't
splitting
have it.
hairs, but
Definitely wouldn't have it above like Goodfellas or anything like that. But
no, no.
it's I think it's definitely a really good
Yeah.
mob
I
movie.
could see it on the list. I mean, when I say high or low on the list, I'm thinking like 6, 7. I'm not putting it number
Yeah.
10. It's not a number
Yeah. Gotcha.
10 number, but it's definitely it's not a number 1 or 2 either, in my opinion.
Yeah. I got you. Oh, definitely
So,
not.
so, but yeah,
What else you got, man?
there's other like, and I haven't seen it in a long time, but Donnie Brasco came to
Definitely,
mind.
Donnie Brasco definitely has to be on the list.
Yeah,
Probably not very high, but it's a fantastic mafia movie.
and one I actually liked better than Donnie Brasco was The Departed.
Oh yeah, actually, I had The Departed as one of my honorable mentions, but yeah, it's
Did
definitely
you?
a good movie.
I love that movie. I think that movie was fantastic.
Yeah, Departed's great.
Hmm. Um,
I
yeah,
got
I don't know.
I got another one kind of out of left field, and it's
Okay,
definitely the comedic side of the mob.
okay.
Analyze this.
I had
It's
a hard time with
it's
those movies
it's
because
definitely better. It's definitely better than the second one.
if you ask me to pick a high or what I would consider a good quality mob comedy, I wouldn't go to Analyze This. I'd go to Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, that to me, I really enjoyed that one because it's Joe Pesci doing a caricature of those characters,
Yeah,
but better than Robert De Niro doing a caricature of those characters and
yeah,
Analyze This.
yeah.
So I would pick Eight Heads in there, which I actually put on my list too as an honorable mention or something to bring up because I wasn't sure how far you wanted to go into the whole genre because there's so many movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
True stories, not true stories, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't. I and there's some question because, like we said, Snatch is Snatch a mob movie. Um, there's other movies like Layer Cake and things like that kind of
Touch
skirt the
the
lines.
line. Yeah.
So
What about a Bronx Tale? That's like one of those. I, for me, I'm pretty sure I saw a Bronx Tale. I think I even saw a Bronx Tale before I saw Goodfellas. Even though Bronx Tale came out afterwards,
yeah.
it was
I haven't seen it in a long time. It's like there's another one, Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah.
that I
Oh,
didn't
yeah, that's
see,
another
and
one. I didn't think of that.
it shows up a lot on lists, and I haven't seen it.
A Bronx
So I
Tale,
really
one of
can't
those.
comment on those two.
It's an absolute classic as far as mob movies.
Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What are some other ones you got, man?
Getting to the end of my list here. Um, well, there's some of the made for TV stuff that came out.
Which I was
One was called
kind
The
of,
Don, and it was by Mario Puzo.
yeah.
Um, and I remember it's been a long time. They made a sequel to it, also based on Puzo's work.
Yeah.
Um, and for those out there who don't know that, Mario Puzo
Wrote
wrote
the
The Godfather.
Godfather.
Um, and then the which I only saw part of this. I put it on the list just because I was just trying to figure out Gotti with John Travolta. I never saw all of it.
Yeah, it was made for TV though, wasn't it?
Well, I don't remember. I saw it was
Was
on
it?
cable when I was
I
watching
mean, it
it.
was.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it might have been an HBO movie. I think I was probably watching it on HBO.
John Travolta is not very convincing as a
An
mob
actor.
boss.
It's
Well,
not very
yeah, I guess
convincing. He's had some good roles and he's done a good job in some movies, but
there's
overall,
overall he's had some
he's
really
very,
er,
when you're skirting the line on whether or not you're actually maybe better than Nicolas Cage, and I lean towards Nicolas Cage, there's a problem.
Nicolas Cage is a terrible actor.
Yeah, well, I don't think very highly of John Travolta either.
Well,
I
maybe
think
that's why
both of them have had good roles though and done okay jobs in certain things
that's why Face Off was like one of those worst movies ever made.
because they're both in it.
They're both in it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they're playing each other. It's
Two bad actors playing bad actors.
that movie never made any sense to me because
No.
you've got two bad actors who are supposed to swap faces, right? But you can't swap skeletal structures.
Yeah.
And John Travolta has a big head, and Nicolas Cage has a narrow head.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I don't know. Well, the whole premise of the movie was terrible.
Well, true, but yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what about another one that I don't think is generally thought of as a mob movie? But what about Knockaround Guys?
I never saw that one.
No, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie you gotta watch. It was like the early 2000s, like 2001, I think is when that came out.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I've seen the.
I know you've
DVD
seen it because I had it on DVD. I'm pretty sure we
Did
watched
we
it.
watch it? Who was in
I'm
it?
pretty. Shit. Of course you're gonna ask me that.
I can look it up. I just gotta go out of my notes here. Blow
Well,
would be another one. I forgot. That was. That just popped into my head. I don't have that on my list, but Blow is another. Because that was a true story, wasn't it? Or based on a true story?
I think it was based on one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Barry Pepper, Vin Diesel, Seth Green, John
Okay.
Malkovich,
Is that?
Dennis Hopper.
Well, okay. Yeah, I don't.
Because I remember
I'm picturing the cast.
Yeah, I remember Barry Pepper was he was the mob boss. This is the one guy I remember in the movie for sure.
Yeah, I'm picturing it, but I'm not. I don't remember seeing it. Maybe I did. I don't remember.
I don't remember Seth Green being in it though. But
yeah, he's the only one that's really kind of sticking out.
that's according to the old Wikipedia.
Right. This is the last one on my list. I don't know. Do I have 10? I don't think I had 10. The True Romance.
Yeah, I was never a big fan of the movie.
Oh, see, I like the movie a lot.
Yeah.
Personally, I actually like it better than Pulp Fiction. I love Pulp Fiction though.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction's a great movie.
I don't know. There's elements of True Romance that I think surpass even some of the better moments in Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Maybe I wouldn't say I like it better than Pulp Fiction, but it's like you said with Godfather, maybe like a and B situation there. But True Romance has a bit more mob element to it, I think, because of the Christopher Walken character. He's kind of like old school mob in the film.
I had one more on mine. I think I had one more. I think we got all the rest of them because we talked about the Irishman already.
Yeah.
Let's see. Road to Perdition was the last one I had on my list.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of not a cartoon, comic book version because it was based on a comic book.
But still, it's a fantastic movie.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good. I don't know. I just Because he was a hitman in that, wasn't he? He played a
Yeah,
hitman,
yeah,
with a kid.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. I don't know why I never really thought of that one as a mob movie, but um, there's a lot of movies that I didn't know would be considered. I just jumped over to Google to look up Knockaround Guys, and all
Yeah.
these other like movies came up for mob stuff,
Like what?
like Get Carter.
Was
The
that a
original
was
was
that
Michael
a
Caine. I don't know. I never saw it. I know they remade it with
maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Travolta. Did they remake it with Travolta? I know they remade it. Michael Caine was the original.
No, the one with no, you're the one you're thinking with Travolta was that Get Shorty?
Oh yeah, Get Carter. The remake was Stallone. I think Stallone was the remake of that.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah, yeah, Get Shorty was
The Client, was that a mob movie?
yeah, for sure it was. I remember seeing it long time ago.
Billy Bathgate. I never saw Billy Bathgate.
No.
That's supposed to be a high quality film. Dennis or not Dennis, Dustin Hoffman. The French Connection. I mean, it's crime. I don't.
It's
Was there
crime.
mob?
I don't know if it's a mob aspect to it. I don't
Yeah.
remember that part of it.
Oh. History of Violence. Was that a mob movie? I didn't see it.
Never saw it.
Cronenberg.
Oh,
Layer
that's
Cake shows up on this list.
yeah.
Um, Gangster Squad. That was a terrible fucking movie. It really was. It was a terrible movie. Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. I think he plays Bugsy Malone.
Oh yeah. I
I think
forgot
in
about
that
that
one.
one. I
And then
forgot
there's
about that one.
Bugsy. Right, we totally
Yeah.
forgot about Bugsy.
Yeah.
And Hoffa with Nicholson and DeVito. It's not really. It's
It's
more of a
not really
biopic,
yeah, it's not really a mob movie, but yeah,
but it,
I guess
if
I guess it's as much of a mob movie as say Gangs of New York is.
yeah, okay. I'm not having finished watching it. I don't know, but
Yeah, you definitely. You know what? I liked Gangs of New York so much. It was one of the like first movies I bought on iTunes,
oh really?
even though I actually had it on DVD. But
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, there's they even have Eastern Promises, which I think is Russian mafia.
okay.
So
What
yeah,
about
the Gangster Squad's on these lists. It's like what the hell is Gangster Squad doing on there?
let's throw some movies on a list, man.
Okay, you want to start
I
at
got
10?
I got 4 movies on there already. Just throw some out. We'll kind of figure out a spot.
Well, the ones we've already talked about.
I got Goodfellas and Godfather 2 on here already. I got Casino and The Untouchables. Throw
Okay.
something else you think
Well, I mean, if you
absolutely has
ask
to be
my
on there.
opinion, I'd put Untouchables at like 3, 4. But I can see why you might not want to.
The only reason I don't is because there's so many other like high quality mob movies. It's not. I put it on there at 8, just because
Okay.
there's so many other really great mob movies that I had above it.
Right, right. Um, well, you have Godfather 2 at number 2, I'm
At number
assuming.
2, yes.
Would you really put Casino below or above the first Godfather? Or could the first Godfather be at number 3?
Um.
I
Yeah.
don't know if
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
put God.
I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't put it over Godfather 1. No.
Okay, then theoretically, because Casino, just in terms of mob movies, has to be above it has to be within the top 5.
Which one? What?
Casino.
Casino? I had Casino at 6, but
Okay, well, hey, like I said,
I
to
can
me it
I'll
was
move it. But
no, that's fine. I was just kind of thinking based on how our discussion about it relative to say Goodfellas. I just thought, maybe in the top 5, but
it's a nice thing about writing on my iPad is I can actually erase it.
oh, or you could just use a fucking eraser. But okay.
Yeah, why not?
Anyway, at least you're not killing any trees.
Exactly.
But so yeah, Godfather 1 I would put it at 3. Would be
Okay.
like Godfather Part 2, Godfather 1.
Mm-hmm. What about Donnie Brasco? Is that like a top 5 kind of movie, or
It's good.
how about this?
List.
Would you have The Departed over
Oh, I'd have
Donnie
The
Brasco?
Departed over it.
Okay.
I would for sure. Yeah, I would definitely have The Departed over it. We didn't even consider some of the old classic other than the original Scarface, but there's I never saw this. It's called White Heat with James Cagney.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
on the list. The
I
Big
wasn't
Heat
I wasn't a huge fan of like the older kind of mob movies. I don't know. Just I don't know because of the
because they're black and white.
no, I think it's like the because the lack of brutality, I think,
Yeah.
in those movies, I think they're harder to connect to as far as like mob wise. Because like that's the one thing. Like when it comes to the mafia, you can't get away from the death and brutality, and because of restrictions on those older movies, they couldn't really do that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
but they still managed to do. It's like that's like saying you can't watch a war movie that was made in the '40s because it lacks the brutality. You don't see the limbs
yeah,
flying everywhere, but
well, no,
I
but
mean, you know what's going on. It's theater of the mind.
no, I get it.
So,
I get it.
I mean, I get your point. You know, we're at this point in our lives and society, we're accustomed to seeing a certain level of blood and guts and
Well,
realism with
especially
it. You know,
doing what we do. I mean, there's like very few
well,
things on this earth that I think really would shock me anymore.
well, right.
Outside
But I
the
mean,
as outside like decapitations and things like that, obviously. But
yeah, I don't think decapitations coming to the hospital. Not much you can do for
oh,
them at this point.
they really don't.
No, so but I mean, yeah, I see your point because we've grown up in a world where even before we were born, The Godfather existed. You know,
Yeah,
before you were born, Godfather 2 existed, and that was just a baby.
yeah,
So in our world, we the brutality of the mob, the darker side of things,
it's always
we
been there.
it's been there. We've seen that.
Yeah,
Um, it's been a part of our movie watching experience. So going
yeah,
backwards, I can see how those other movies seem tame and don't feel like they're representing
yeah.
what the real world is of that. So I see
I
your
get
point.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got three spots left, man. What throw something else out there?
Um. Well, you said you put Untouchables at number 8.
Yeah,
So what do we have?
I
Seven,
got
nine,
seven,
and
nine, and
10.
10. Yeah,
Okay. Well, where would you put The Irishman? Would you put it on the list?
no, I wouldn't put it on the list.
Hmm. Uh, Well, do you think Pulp Fiction belongs on the list?
As far as mob movies, I can think of other ones that I think deserve to be on there over Pulp Fiction.
Okay. Hmm.
A Bronx Tale being one of them. I mean, the Bronx Tale's
Well, okay. Based on what you said about Bronx Tale, and we still have Gangs in New York too,
yeah,
so you can throw those two anywhere you want because I haven't seen them. But based on what you're saying, as a life in general, I'm willing to concede. As a life in general list, I'm willing to concede those titles to you. But if we could, then can we put the original Scarface on the list?
absolutely.
So you can put it at number 10 because I get it. It's black and white. It's old school. And then I want to say it was
And
1928.
if you're a fan of the Scarface movie, go back and watch the original. It's very very
Absolutely.
different.
Very
It's very
different.
very
Well,
different.
story wise, it's essentially the same, or at least
Yeah,
what the thread. It's
yeah,
just the difference is it's prohibition, and you don't have the cartoonish behavior of the main character.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that was 28 when that came out.
Was it really?
Oh, I'm sorry, 32, 1932.
Okay, okay.
But boy, what sold it for
Good.
me when
It was a
because I
good
saw
year.
that when I was a kid. 32 was a good year.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, as far as film goes, me personally, I think 31 was a better year because 31
Okay.
gave us Dracula and Frankenstein. But that's neither here nor there. Uh, but what was the selling point for me? Because even as a child, I was more aware of Boris Karloff because of Frankenstein. So when it was offered to, hey, do you want to watch this movie? I'm like, it's black and white. I don't really get the gangster thing. I was a kid. I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Boris Karloff. And I was like, oh, well, shit, throw it on. I
Absolutely.
didn't say it like that because I was 10, but
Yeah.
in my head, I was thinking, yeah, fuck, throw it on. I'll watch Boris Karloff in anything. So it was funny seeing him do, an American-ish accent too,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
he, was not his thing.
All right, man. Well, I think we got a list together. Should I
Okay.
ramble through it real quick before
Sure.
we end the show? All right.
Absolutely.
So this is our top 10, the Life in General top 10 mob movies. At number 10, you got the original Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
9, Gangs of New York. 8, you got the Untouchables. 7, A Bronx Tale. 6, Donnie Brasco. 5, Casino. 4, The Departed. 3, The Godfather Part 1. 2, Godfather Part 2. And the number 1 movie, Ian?
Goodfellas.
Absolutely. That's it, man.
Best. It really is. I think it should go down in history as probably, at least to this point, 2020, the best mob movie ever made.
Yeah, it's a
It really
fantastic movie.
is.
It's been one of my favorite movies for the past 25 plus years.
I mean,
probably.
it's just brilliant from beginning to end.
Yeah,
and just the everybody, every actor in it, everything. We get our first Michael Imperial, or I can't really say his name, Spider. Yeah. We get him, and then
Michael Imperioli.
Yeah, Imperial. Yeah. And then I guess not to bring it up because it's not part of our list because it's not a movie, but all of these movies we mentioned lay the groundwork for probably the greatest mob TV show ever.
Sopranos. Absolutely.
Regardless of how you feel about how it kind of digressed from itself, because the last couple of seasons were a bit rough to watch.
Well, just the last, I think. Before that last season, it was pretty good.
Yeah, everything was fine, but it seemed like every season it's like there's nothing going on. Yeah. It's like it was being stretched out unnecessarily.
No, I get it.
But still fantastic show, great show. So.
Well, that's it, man.
Well, and if we ever do this list again, which we won't, but they are making a Sopranos movie.
Are there? Oh, that's right.
The prequel. Yeah, and this young Tony Soprano, played by a young Michael Gandolfini's son. I don't know his name.
Yeah, I don't know what his name is.
So, but it's something Gandolfini.
Really?
No, I'm pretty sure that's his last name.
But, well, I'd like to thank everyone for checking the show out and checking our ugly mugs out on YouTube.
Yeah. If you can make it through without vomiting, that's plus.
The one thing I can say is after we've been on this for like an hour and a half, 2 hours almost.
Wow, really?
My headphones are kind of starting to bother my ear. So
see, that's what I was talking about. My earphones are fine. I don't get the ear fatigue.
It's not ear fatigue. It's just probably the fact that I've got my hat on over top of them.
Oh, because it's pressing. So yeah, my headphones are over my hat.
It's always a little
over my baldness.
It's always a little chilly in my basement, and Ian likes to harass me when I turn my little heater on underneath my desk.
Yeah,
so
because he's done it in the summertime.
I do it all year round.
That's retarded. I'm sorry. That's
a terrible
silliness.
Word,
I know, it's silliness. Although,
as the husband of a special ed teacher, I need to say that's a terrible word.
Well, it is. It's bad choice of words. It's a word that I don't see as bad, but I see how other people see it as bad, and I think it should probably evolve out of the language that we use it for. But that's coming from someone who has their window open and runs a fan in the wintertime. So I guess shouldn't judge.
Since we've gone on for so damn long, this is one of the longer episodes we've had in a while, I think. But any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter. Ian, what's our Twitter handle? I know you can't see my screen now, so you can't.
I never look at your screen anyway, and I always get it wrong anyway, even with your screen right there.
It starts with an @
at Life in General Pod.
No, at
LIG.
Twitter, we are at, that's it, at LIG Pod. on
Okay. So I
Facebook.
got part of it right.
Yep.
Hmm.
Follow us on Facebook, and shows available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review on
6-star.
iTunes.
6-star, 6-star, 6-star. That's going to change even if they can see me.
What'd you say?
I'm not going to change just because they can see me.
Oh, gotcha. But check us out. We're on Spotify, obviously on YouTube, just about everywhere else, and that's about it, man.
Yeah. Talk to y'all later.
Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you some GoPros, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub. Hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.